Hi, Pam. This is Natalie Callback. I'm here with Pam Carriker. Super excited to see her again. It has been a while. Pam Carriker is a mixed media artist, instructor, and author of some amazing books, which I also own: Art at the Speed of Life and Creating Art at the Speed of Life. Oh, and actually, you did another book. I can't believe it. I don't have that yet. Mixed Media Portraits. So I guess I have to put that on my wish list. And she also writes the column Art Journaling at the Speed of Life for Somerset Arts Journaling magazine. But as if it wasn't enough, she does way more. She also on the Director's Circle artist for Stampington & Co. And she did some amazing instructional videos for Strathmore artist papers, as well as some amazing stencils for Stencil Girl. So she's one of the family at Stencil Girl products. And she does rubber art stamps, which I also love a lot, for Stampington & Co. And that's not all yet. She also has our signature line of mixed media art products for, I'm always not right sure, Derivan Matisse. Is that how you say it? So that's an Australian company, as far as I know, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So, Pam, tell us a little bit about yourself and your artwork.
Well, as you kind of said, what I do as far as like my art business, I started doing it about 12 years ago now, believe it or not, when I hit the big 4-0, which I've been past the big 5-0 now, which kind of sucks. But but when I hit the big 4-0, I had always been doing something creative, and mostly just doing enough, like teaching enough or selling. I did Stampin' Up! And I did creative memories, all, scrapbooking stuff, all that stuff. And my goal then was just to make enough money to buy more supplies, so I didn't have to take it out of the household income. So that was like my means to an end. And then I was teaching art K through 7 at a private school, and it was kind of a weird thing that I fell into, and I loved it. But there was some like political stuff going on at the school and everything. And I ended up only doing that for a year, but I absolutely loved it. And that kind of motivated me to start getting published. That's when I started submitting artwork to get published, and one thing led to another. So I basically took my stay-at-home mom hobby and turned it into a career.
Which is so interesting for me is I never really thought about it, but when I was talking to so many of you in the interviews, and now you too, it's like there's almost none of us, at least in this Creative Jumpstart series, that actually studied art or has been an artist all their life. I mean, like full-time artist. And, like you have been deciding 10 or 12 years ago. I think Jody All used to be working in a bank. I was a paralegal. Mary Beth Shaw was in the insurance business. I think Julie Pfeiffer-Belzer, she did theater. So it's like very interesting to me. What is it? Like, do you have an idea why that particular?
I think I've thought about this before, and I kind of think that especially people that are like, you're younger than I am, I know that, but like people in our age group, like all big brackets because you're so young. But I think that when we were in school, it wasn't really encouraged as much to be a quote unquote artist. Mm-hmm. It's more encouraged now, and I think that you had to have a real job. Mm-hmm. Or be a mom or whatever. You had to have some other defining thing. You could be crafty. That was okay. But actually being an artist, it was viewed, at least I felt like it. And it wasn't my parents. My parents always encouraged me to be creative. I mean, they bought supplies. When I wrote on walls, they gave me paper, things like that. But I just feel like it wasn't really out there that you could just like be an artist. And so as you get older, you start getting more brave, and you kind of revisit those things that maybe you didn't do when you were younger. And you feel like, well, nobody can tell me no now. Right. I'm brave. I can do whatever I want, right? So, and it does take a little bit of bravery to put it out there. But I think now we've got such a great community. Yeah. I mean, when I started, I was a part of a very small little community of mixed media artists I kind of stumbled into. But now there's such a encouraging, nurturing community that I think people are, branching out and doing what they want to do. And I think there's a little bit of artist in everybody.
I think
when
so
you're
too.
That's like your fun stuff when you're a kid, is making art and art class and all that stuff. And so I think people go back to it. That's like why the coloring books, I think, are so popular now. I've talked to people that don't do any other kind of art, but they love those coloring books because it's soothing to them. It reminds them of a happy time.
Yeah, I think it's like there's something about, Pablo Picasso, I guess, said it, something about like there's a child is a better artist, and that totally screwed that quote up, but that, whatever, you know what I mean, right? So,
yes, I know what you mean.
So, like we are really losing that feeling, and I always thought like to be an artist, you have to go to art school. And it depends on, sometimes people still say that. They're like, oh, so what art school did you go to? And you're like, no.
Well, the same thing with writing a book, too. It's like, oh, did you study that in college? No. It just, which it took a long time to actually be able to call myself an artist because I don't have a degree backing it up. And it took a long time for me to say I was like an author or, a writer or whatever, because I didn't consider myself a writer, right. and still I justify that with, oh, well, it's an art book. It's not like I'm writing a novel or something, it's a different kind of writing or whatever. It just, I sometimes,
do you think
if I go back and do it over, I would do it just so I had credit, I don't know.
Do you think, though, I find that interesting too. Do you think that is like a female thing sometimes, that we kind of have to justify ourselves? Because truly, if you talk to a guy, he would just be like, I'm an artist, I'm an author.
Yeah, it'd be fine. Yeah, I do think it's that. And I do think that, I don't know, there's some kind of justification thing. I think sometimes because what we do is fun.
Yeah.
And it's fun, I know, there's a lot of other stuff that's not fun that we do that goes along. We spend as much time on a computer or doing things that aren't very fun as much time as we spend at the table, actually playing with paints and stuff. So there's a lot of not fun that people see, but I always feel like I have to like justify it. Oh, I'm going to go up and make art, but it's for an article, or I'm making it for, something that I'm doing for a class or whatever. And it's like, I still feel that thing that, oh, I'm just going to go play in my studio. I can say that sometimes, and sometimes I'll say it on Facebook or something, because then I feel like I'm putting it out there.
Right.
And stuff, give people permission that it is okay to do that. So, but I just think there's a lot of us, I think, feel that way, where we have to justify it because it's fun. It's not like, oh, I'm going to go to work today, get in my car and drive somewhere. No, I'm going to stay in my pajamas and with my slippers on and make art,
That's an interesting thing. I've never thought about that. It is one part of that nourishing thing is that we all are in the same boat. And so we know how we feel about this. And that makes it so much nicer to have this community to, share these things. And we might not be alike in many other things, whether it be lifestyle or whatever, like all kinds of, circumstances. But that ties us all together. And I really love that there's something like where we can connect and just like be, artists and have fun with each other. So.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, what does a typical creative day for you look like?
Well, a typical creative day, I thought about this. And usually a day in the life of Pam is multitasking. So I go and I'll put a load of laundry in the washing machine. On a day that I know that I really want to be creative and I don't want to be bothered about dinner or something, I throw something in the crock pot. I eat my breakfast. I don't often work in my jammies. That was kind of a misnomer. I do sometimes I'll have like, whatever days, but most of the time, I get dressed and I wear some kind of like, scarf and like, just a little bit arty clothes, and I put my art apron on and I come up and it's a lot about, multitasking between computer and doing, because the computer can suck you in and then you spend all day doing that stuff and then it's like you didn't get anything really made. So I separated my computer from my art space. I have a different room it's in. So, and it keeps the paint off the keyboards too, which is
it's a plus.
It's a good thing. So I will go in and I'll spend a set amount of time in there, and then I'll come in and I'll do a layer of artwork and get all messy and do some stuff in here. And then if I have to go back to finish something or work on something, I go back. So I try to break it up and go back and forth. And I brought up to my studio, I have my Keurig so I can have my coffee. I have a little mini fridge in here, so I have drinks and stuff and hummus and veggies or whatever, so I can just like separate myself from the rest of the house, because if I get too pulled the other way, I get easily distracted. So if I see, if I stay in my art space, I don't see a laundry, I don't see things that I should, maybe do. And I just try to really segment it. Like, this is my time, and I pretend I'm going to work, I'm going to work, I'm going upstairs, it's away from the rest of the house. So I just go up and I'm at work. So I'm either in my office or in my studio. And I just try to segregate it, because otherwise, it's so easy to have everything else pulling you away. Because everything else seems more important than doing,
Yeah, that makes sense. That explains a lot, because my laundry room is in my studio.
That is a hard thing. Yeah.
And
your clothes call you.
I know. It always like, hey, you got to do something. And I hear you on the computer. I wish I could separate that. I think that's the worst part of it, because you're always like thinking you missed something, or you have to check on something, and then you're just
I put it in our guest bedroom. We have an extra kind of a guest bedroom, so I thought, why do I have two? I have it for two sets of kids, but they're not here that all together or all that often. So I set my computer up in there, and the idea I got that from was Mary Beth, actually, because she had a separate office, and I was like, oh, that's genius. I'm doing that.
I guess we have to move.
It was, yeah. Once I did it, it was like, why didn't I think of this before? Seriously, it really helped me a lot. Because the writing part of it is creative too, but it's different. And it's so easy to, if you have everything all together, to just get distracted and you don't get anything done then.
Yeah, it's also, I think you put your stuff in a different flow. Like I do, like, for example, I finish an artwork, then I photograph it, and then I go to my computer and do the Photoshop, and then I go back. And so it would be better to just keep on doing your artwork and then collect everything, then photograph everything, and then, it's just like, because the computer is there, you just interrupt yourself. But you know what? I have to work on that. So.
Well, it helps too, because I even like turn my phone upside down. So I'm not like looking at the message, at Facebook and all that stuff. I just try to like turn it upside down. And I spend a little bit of time in the morning usually, and in the evening, and I'll put stuff on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and just kind of try. So I keep fresh stuff on there, but I love Instagram because I just put it on there and it goes to Facebook.
Yeah.
It's just for me.
I know. So I know, speaking of Instagram, I know that you, for example, are a great knitter. Is that scarf that you made?
Oh, yeah. I did this.
It's beautiful.
So, I've been into doing the little fingerless gloves and stuff. And it snowed today, so I get to wear them. This is like the first day I had to wear them.
So follow Pam Carriker on her Instagram feed. She does wonderful artwork. She posts photo of that and a lot of her amazing knitting, as you can tell. I'm so jealous of that scarf. I want that. But what else do you mix and match and master in your work?
In my work, I really like to use, I like to use different things like layering and stuff. I've really been into adding the dry medium. That's why I wanted to share that. Dry mediums with wet, and finding ways you can layer those and stuff. I just think it gives really interesting texture, and I really love like matte artwork and stuff. So the dry is like really matte, and then my paints are matte, and everything just has a really cool, you can see a lot of depth in it and stuff. So I just really have been messing around with that a lot, and trying to remember to put some collage in there, because I'm bad about that. I get started and then I'm like, oh, that would have looked really cool if there was some collage peeking out and stuff, so anyway, I just try to do that, try to like layer those things and see what I can get and like scrape stuff off and just,
Cool. Yeah, so for those of you who haven't seen Pam's video yet, or you haven't signed up at Creative Jumpstart, which you definitely should. She did, and I don't want to tell too much about it and give it away, but she did this amazing video where she plays with pan pastels and some of her really special mediums. And so it's like it's just like mind blowing how she makes out of the pastels, who are basically pastels are pigments, a wet paint medium, and how she works on it and layers and layers and layers it, and it just is just mind blowingly awesome. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the back, like what was the idea for it, or for that special piece, or what draws you so much on making? It's a face, so making faces.
Well, I like doing, portraits, so that's kind of a thing. I wanted to do a face because that's my favorite thing to do. I love the shadows and the highlights and the you can't. It's like never ending for me right now. I've been doing it for a long time, but I still am just fascinated by how light falls. Like I'm looking at your face right now, looking at the highlights on your face and thinking, oh, that's like really cool. But anyway, diversion. I really like doing that, but I wanted to make it accessible. So I thought, okay, well, I have the stencil from Stencil Girl. That makes it easy for anybody to do it. And it's really easy if you use the Pam pastels to put the stencil face down. And the cool thing about it is there's a lot of face stencils out there now and stuff. The cool thing about it is it totally changes it as you paint on top. That's just your starting point. All it's really doing is giving you where the eyes, nose, and mouth go. And as you add your own painterly marks on top of it, you redraw it in the different steps that I take them through. It changes the face from being a stencil that's applied on top of something to the very bottom layer, and you don't know it's a stencil. I mean, no one would ever know that you started with a stencil when you look at it when you're done. And that's what I think is so cool about using different things like stencils and stamps. Try using them as a bottom layer, not as your top layer, and work on top of them, because then you're changing it and making it really more your own artwork.
Right. It's just a helper, as like I love to use photos often as a starting point, and that
and it's the opposite of like the whole stamping that I did, and things like that, because those are often your final image and you want them to be perfect, and and that's not. I'm completely the opposite about doing all of that stuff now. It's like, no, that just gives me something to start with. It's not the final image on top.
Yeah, it always amazes me when I see how many different portraits you get out. Like when I see your work from the same stencil. I mean, you have several face stencils, so but it's just like mind blowing. And I also loved seeing this morning. I went to the gallery of our students and checked, and some already uploaded some artwork.
I haven't looked yet.
And it's just like, it's so cool because it's like all so different, but what they got out of your tutorial. So it's always, I love seeing that too, because it's a little bit different in an online workshop. I mean, I love in-person workshops because you have this like interaction with the students and you feed off of each other. But what I love about the online workshop is that their students can actually throw in some of their own stuff that they have at home and their own style, right? So what do you think about Creative Jumpstart? I know you have been a Creative Jumpstarter before, not last year, but the year before. And I think even before, I'm not 100% sure.
Either done it once or twice before. I can't remember. Yeah.
What do you like about Creative Jumpstart?
What I really like about it is the month that you're doing it in, because it's after the holidays and everybody wants to start like something fresh, right, for the new year. I love that the videos are short, because I've taken some classes and the videos are really long, and it's like I find myself about halfway through going, okay, fast forwarding it or something, because I just want to get the gist of it and then I want to go work off of it. And I think it really, keeping them short like that, people will watch the whole thing, then they go into work and they're actually going to be pulling their own stuff into it, putting their own things, their own twist on it, because they're not like sitting there with step-by-step instructions and then doing everything step-by-step. It's more an idea. It's like, oh, I didn't think of using those. I love the theme. I didn't think of using those things together. I'm going to go try that. And, oh, I don't have that, but I have this. It's kind of like that. Let's see what this does. It kind of triggers your mind a little bit to maybe think of art supplies you already have in a new way. Exactly. That's why I wanted to use the pan pastels, because I know a lot of people get them, and I hear a lot in class, like if I'm using them in a workshop or something, oh, I have those, but I haven't really used them because they're a little intimidating. Sometimes people don't really know what to do with them. And I thought, well, I'll use those because, they're awesome. I love them. But a lot of people like get them and then they don't do anything with them.
Yeah, that's what I loved about that too, because I have worked a lot with Pan Pastel, but I never really thought about the way how you did it in the video, and I was like, oh, that's such a great idea. That's another thing how I can make the most out of my own art supply. And then, as you said, some students were asking questions about like, oh, I don't have Pan Pastels, and they were listing like supplies, and you were there and commenting and say, hey, you can use this, or oh yeah, someone said something, can I use for the same technique oil bars, and you were like telling them why that wouldn't work, or so it's actually, I think I like it because it gives, as you said, so many possibilities for people to make the most out of their own stuff too. Like
exactly, and that's kind of the way I like people to think anyway, because you don't need to. So often, I think we feel like when you want to do a project, you feel like you have to go get every thing for that project, right? You don't. We all have, like, usually we have a pretty good stash of stuff, and it makes it more your own if you substitute. If you think, well, I don't have that, but I have this, that would probably do kind of the same thing. Right. Every time you do something a little bit different, you're adding a little bit of you in there.
That's true. Yeah, I see that the same. Your video was on, well, for us it's yesterday while we're talking, but I think your video is on Saturday, guys. So, but if you go back, if you purchase Creative Jumpstart now, you can still watch Pam's amazing video, of course. Pam, it was so wonderful to talk to you, and it was very interesting. I would love to do that more often, but I want to ask you if there's anything for you coming up in the future, in the near future, like classes, books, workshops.
I have workshops that I'm teaching around the country, some with Mary Beth. We like to co-teach together, so we have a couple of those coming up, and those are all listed on my website. It's just pamcarriker.com, real easy. And so I have a teaching page in there, and I'll be adding a little bit more to it too. I have a couple more things in the works that I haven't finalized yet. And really just this, I've kind of started, I'll just like throw this out there because whenever you throw something out, you're accountable. I've kind of started plotting out maybe another book. So I like have ideas, so I'm kind of like working on that. And I'm not pressuring myself this time, pat on the back. I'm just like, the last 3 were back to back, and I was like, they were uber urgent, and it was like, and this time I'm just like, I'm just testing the waters and putting, I have my big old whiteboard all marked up now, and I've got ideas. So I'm kind of just like enjoying the process. So I have no idea if it'll, come to anything or not, but I'm just playing with it. So
that's cool. I can't wait for it. And I can totally appreciate that you say I'm not pressuring myself. Because I finished mine and it's not even at the printer yet, and I'm like, should I do another one? And I was like, no, maybe I should wait.
I will say I did mine back to back. Started on my next one before the other one was even out in print on all of them, just like boom, boom, boom. And it was fun and stuff, but it took a lot out of me. It was like, then I was just like, okay, I am not doing anything on a book for a year. But now I'm starting to get that itch again. So we'll see. I'm just playing with it right now. I'm kind of enjoying it. I really love the discipline of doing a book, because you have to do this today, this today, this today, and I don't know, I just like that discipline. So
that's true. Well, we're looking forward to it, Pam, and it was so wonderful to talk to you. I wish you a wonderful evening, and bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.